presentation of Zagniff Productions, LLC. Broadcasting live from beautiful Zagniff Studios in the heart of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, it is time for this week's episode of Indie and Unsigned, where we bring you tales of the independent entertainer on their way to the big time. Remember who you're listening to today, because you may see them on the big screen or hear them on the radio tomorrow. Hosted by yours truly, the legend in his own mind, the man, the myth, the mad karaoke DJ, Mr. Fingers. And without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. Indie and Unsigned. Afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls. We're here on a Sunday. We're not normally here on a Sunday, but that's okay. What's good? What is the deal? I'm gonna borrow something from Huggy Lowdown. What's the deal? Pickles, is everything kosher? It's your boy, Mr. Fingers, the mad karaoke DJ, live from the lab, and here today. Honor and a privilege. I say that all the time, but this one is a little bit deeper than that, because this gentleman and I go back some 34 years to our senior year in high school. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you all that attended high school at the castle that year, y'all know him as Mark Austin. We know him professionally as Dark Poet. What's going on, homie?
Hey, what's going on, Mr. Fingers? Brother Handy, how you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good, man. I'm good. I can't complain, man. I can't complain at all. It's funny that we reconnected after all these years, and after you lose touch with people for a while. Like, we didn't have in '88, we didn't have social media. All we had was telephone numbers, and we didn't have text back then. We had phone numbers, we had US mail, and I don't think I had either one of those for you. So after I left Windsor and went off to camp, oh, I forgot. I never ever do a broadcast without.
Repping the dogs.
Yes, sir. I never do a broadcast without repping. I got to get some Savannah State gear. Anybody out there? Wait a minute. You know what? I went to school out there. I know how to get it. I'm gonna get me an SSU cap. But when I went off to my freshman year at Savannah, at the University of Georgia, and then came back to Savannah State, and then joined the Army, we just, after graduation, that was pretty much it. Which is
Yep.
sad, because we have history. So, do you want to break the history down, or do you want to let me do it?
Oh man, so I'm old. I'm missing a couple of brain cells, but you may know a little more in-depth history. But so here's from what I remember. So I was the new kid on the block, fresh from Philly. Um, my first and only year at Windsor, not knowing too many people, just had a few people in my circle. But um, you and I believe, what class were we? We were in a class together. I don't know if it was chemistry or one of those math classes, but it was one of those classes that we were in together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and somehow or another, we started talking music, and that became the bond that we had. We were talking music, and we were both kind of misfits because everybody was into hip hop, which was cool, because we were entering the golden age of hip hop. But
We
with
were smack
me,
dab in the middle of the golden age of hip hop,
yes,
my brother.
yes.
I mean,
Uh,
we had legends.
Yeah,
You had
yeah.
legends.
We'd already had legends like Run DMC had already established themselves, and Raising
Grandmaster
Hell had just blown up. But Eric B and Rakim were just blowing up. They were just coming onto the
Fresh,
scene,
hey, Fresh Prince was
bringing.
coming
Yep,
up.
yep.
The
Public
Fresh
Enemy
Prince
was
was
just
coming up.
coming
Public
out.
Enemy was coming up.
Yep.
And we had
So
already
so
had Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, like Def Jam.
yep.
Basically, you had the New York. New York definitely was the mecca for hip hop at that point.
Yeah,
'Cause you had
yeah.
Grandmaster Flash, you had Grandmaster Flash, Melly Mel,
Curtis
Sugar Hill
Blow.
Gang, Curtis Blow. New York ran hip hop, but if New
Yeah.
York ran hip hop, then Def Jam was like the rival mafia family that came in and just said, "We run this now." Because then that was
Yes.
the LL Cool J's, and then you
Yep.
had the Fat Boys. I don't even remember what label the Fat Boys were on.
The Fat Boys were on Tin Pan Alley.
Oh,
They were
look
on.
at you. Okay,
Yeah, Yep.
got. Rest in peace to
Yep.
Prince Marky
Yep.
D.
They started out on Tin Pan Alley and then they moved over to Sutra, which was another indie label. And a little known fact, well, it may be a well known fact. So Run DMC, even though Russell is Run's brother and all of that, and he and Rick Rubin were the co-founders of Def Jam. Run DMC were never signed to Def Jam. They were on Profile Records. Their whole during the height of their careers, they were
Right.
never signed to Def Jam, and they were on one of those industry rule number 4080 contracts
Well,
that they couldn't get out of.
but the kicker was that the producer that put them on the map internationally was the guy that had essentially brought Def Jam to prominence in Rick Rubin.
Yes,
Because
yes,
Rick was all about his hip hop and his guitars, and that was his
yep,
thing. Like, we are going to
yep.
change your whole. I think he did King of Rock too, though, didn't he? King of Rock.
No, Eddie Martinez did that.
Okay.
He was the guitar player on King of Rock and also Rockbox. It was Eddie Martinez, who went on to fame after that, playing with Robert Palmer.
Okay. See, those of you that think that I have all the music knowledge, this listen. I am an apprentice, and this gentleman is the Jedi Master.
Yeah,
I am the Anakin Skywalker to his Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will.
yeah, but
Uh,
we always had that connection because our love of music went beyond hip hop. Because first of all, my roots, Jamaican roots. So, of course, reggae was a prominent part
One,
of
much
my
respect
upbringing,
myself.
right? But also, my grandfather was a jazz musician,
Okay.
and he played with legends, and not just like legends in a fleeting sense. He played with heavyweights. He played with Miles Davis. He played with Dizzy Gillespie. He played with Herbie Hancock,
Okay.
George Benson, Stanley Clark, George Duke, Carlos Santana when his name was just Santana and he had this big, huge afro. Um,
Oh, okay. Is that back in the Black Magic Woman days?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So,
Oh,
so
yeah,
my
call Mofa.
my grandfather got me heavy into jazz, and my father got me into funk because when we were living in London prior to us moving to the States, my father hung out with the members of Heatwave,
Mm.
and we called him Uncle JD Nickel, who went on to replace Lionel Richie in the Commodores.
Hmm.
His wife or his girlfriend or somebody would babysit us while they would go out and hang out and do whatever it was that they were doing. And then once we came over to the States, our first stop was Vallejo, California, in the Bay Area. My father started hanging out with the members of Confunction. So it was just music was just instilled in me, all of these different genres of music, reggae, jazz, funk, and then later on hip hop. And I just appreciated all of it. And as I was saying, that's where we developed our bond because we had an infinite love of music that went beyond hip hop, that went beyond the R&B that we were hearing. It was like classical. We could talk about the chord changes of Chariots of Fire. We could talk about how
Man, look,
Harold
you
Harold Faltermeyer was a freaking genius
with
when
Axel
he
F.
created Axel F.
And
So
the entire soundtrack
yes,
to both parts one and two of Beverly Hills Cop.
and Fletch.
Oh yeah, that's right. Or Jan Hammer, the
Yeah, for
most of
Miami
the
Vice.
for Miami Vice.
Yep.
Crockett's theme to this day is one of the most underrated genius pieces of music that was ever written. I actually sometimes would get in the car and put on Crockett's theme and cruise like I was Crockett, except Crockett was
Yeah.
driving a Porsche or Ferrari and I was driving the '80 Datsun
Yeah.
B210 hatchback, 5 speed, white with the powder blue seats.
Yeah, yeah, because
But yeah,
B210s only came in three colors, right? Brown, orange, and white.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I had that white one with I had that white one with the powder blue. Now, you mind you, I got zero play driving that car, but understand, at 16 years old, I had a car. It had wheels. And here's the kicker. The sad part about it was I wasn't concerned about gas mileage and maintenance and none of that. When I test drove it, I popped open the glove box to see what kind of space it had, and plop plop, and it's a amp with a 10 band EQ in it. I said, let me check this thing out. Popped it on E93 and hit that button. Boom. I was like, okay, Pop, this is the one I want. He's like, you sure you don't want
Right.
that? I want that one. I want that one.
But you know,
Yeah, and then too, at the time that we were coming up, the big thing was, I mean, the hip hop battles have now evolved into this big grand production. But for those of you that are unfamiliar with the age in which hip hop was coming up, and this was even still prevalent in the time when, like, I mean, it was very glamorously illustrated in Notorious, the
hmm
story of B.I.G. in the streets and in the hallways during school. And we used to get together in the hallways, and somebody would get a beatbox going, and somebody would do a little rapping. And back then, rap was very A B A B. There was no A B A B C. Hit C back over here 6 bars later and tie the whole thing together. It was very A B A B, like much like you know most '80s rap. But that was what we did, and at that point, I think the preeminent beatbox in school, there was two of them. It was Pony Boy
hmm
and Barry Dorsey. And
Barry Dorsey.
Barry played drums in the band.
hmm
And then I already knew Pete. I don't remember how I met Pete. I had a typing class with Pete Williams, and
Yep.
Pete sang the chorus. And Pete was one of the best singers in school. And who else was in the group? It was me, you, Barry, Pete, and who else?
Vince. Um.
Vince.
Yeah. Vincent. What's his last name? Jackson. I forget. Um.
Oh, what's
Uh.
up? What's up, man? Ashley Johnson is watching from Windsor Forest class of '88. He said
Okay.
he said he had the orange Datsun. I forgot about that, bro. You had the. Oh my goodness! Shouts out to hey, hang on a second. I got to do this. Shouts out to my homie. We worked together at the post office. We only worked together for a little bit because I left coming to Oklahoma City right before he did, and right after I left, he joined the Air Force, and he's currently overseas right now. My homeboy, I call him Baby Boy because he's so young. Chris, what's up, man? Glad you're doing well, man. Appreciate you stopping by to join us today. But what was I talking about? Oh,
Ashley
I think
Johnson.
yeah, no, it was Vince. You were trying to tell me who Vince
Yeah. Oh yeah.
was.
Yeah. Vince. Crap. Um. You remember that cartoon Silverhawks?
Yeah, yeah.
And that I started a little joke that he resembled Copper Kid.
Oh wow. But wait a minute, who that grew up in the '80s doesn't remember the Silverhawks, man?
Yeah, yeah.
The Silverhawks were essentially a space knockoff
Of Thundercats.
of the
Yep,
Thundercats. Now, just
yep,
about everybody that was an '80s or '90s kid remembers Thundercats, but not
yeah,
everybody remembers the Silverhawks.
yeah. But yeah,
Moves
so
out of limbo. Don't get me started.
right. But Vince and Tyrone Hendricks.
Damn, we had that many people. We were rolling like a little baby Wu-Tang clan back then,
Yep,
weren't we?
yep.
So we called out, and then I was on the keys. Now,
Mm-hmm.
mind you, I know a lot of people that I know that I met in the last 20 plus years, essentially after I left Windsor Forest, would not believe this, but I was deathly afraid of singing in public. Would not do it. Sing at home all day. My thing was the keyboard. Like you wanted a keyboard player, I had you. Like anything that was on the radio, I could play it. The Axel F we talked about and Chariots of Fire. That was I was about to jump in and say you gave me a PTSD moment because my mother
Oh,
stood over me.
trust me. I know. Look, because I remember after that talent show, because not only were you doing the BOB thing with us, but you did your little solo thing, and you based your whole little set that you did around the whole Axel F. But you threw in rumors, and you threw in what have you
Oh,
done for me
bruh.
lately?
Bro,
Oh
you
yeah,
know better than me. Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. It
But
started. I think it started
I
with rumors.
yes, but I remember your mother got on you because you were supposed to play Chariots of Fire and you
No,
didn't do it.
No, 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 no. What you got on me about was what's going on, J Mac? Those of y'all joining us, welcome to this week's edition of Indie and Unsigned Season 2, Episode 9. My guest, Doc Poet, aka my class of '88 homeboy from Windsor Forest High School, Mr. Mark Austin. No, what the deal was when we went in and we got this group together, and so the group was called let me the Brothers of Bass.
The
That's what we were
brothers of
called.
base.
And we were posting, and this was
B.O.B.
back in the day. We would make. I printed up. This was dot matrix printers. This was before
Yes.
the special graphics and PowerPoint and Adobe Pro Shop and all that. So I printed this dot matrix rocket ship, and I was posting. We were posting flyers all over the school. What is BOB?
What is
BOB is
B.O.B.?
coming with like we were our own street team back.
Yep.
Dude, we were a little bit like a hip hop group. It was 7 to 8 of us, always
Yep.
rode deep, never saw one without the other. Had our own street team, had our own. The only thing we didn't have was dancers.
Yep.
Dancers and a DJ. That
Yep.
was it. So we got together and we did. It was supposed to start with Tender
Tender
Love
love. Yeah.
and then go into a song by I think it was Whistle called "Do We Have
Whistle.
a
Do
Chance?
we have a
Do We
chance?
Have a
Yep.
Chance for Our Love?"
Hmm.
And we couldn't harmonize, but we was humming pretty good. Like I didn't mind being in the background just singing along, right? So I think it was either you and Pete were doing the leads or whatever, and we were
Oh,
just
no,
doing the
no, no,
background.
no, no. It was Pete doing the leads.
Pete did the leads. Okay.
Yeah, no, I was not singing at all. my
And
my singing to this day is horrible.
and so we did that, and Mom was like, "Okay, we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are in town show. Just make sure you show up such time, such a place, blah blah blah." And we thought we were doing something. We was like, "Yeah, we get ready to show out, y'all." And just for like you see, Mark is sitting there in front of. He's got his keys with him, and mine are back there behind me. And but back then I had a Yamaha PSR 80 PSR 90 keyboard couldn't have been more than about 150 $200, right? And I had remember that Mattel Electronics 4-pad drum machine
Yes.
with the really bad drum sounds.
The
That was
Synsonics. The
huh?
Synsonics drums. It was a 4-pad. Yeah, it was Synsonics. I
Right. And
remember.
you could play it with sticks.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was my whole setup. And then of course you had the onboard rhythm tracks, the little cheesy onboard rhythm tracks.
Hmm. Yep.
You know, all that stuff.
Yep.
I still remember that craziness,
Yep.
man.
And then
So we got
I
on
had
stage.
the Casio CT310.
Oh, bro, I upgraded. I did. I upgraded on mine. I upgraded to the Casio. Hey, Nisha, how you doing? Nisha commenting from the YouTube. I commented on the. Wait a minute. I upgraded from the Yamaha joint to the CTK 1000,
Yes.
the one that had the 8-9 demo songs, and I still
Yeah.
remember those
Yeah.
demo songs.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm getting off the beaten path. So we had this talent show, and high school, I don't know about high school now, but I know back in the 80s, any type of anything that was outside of school where people got to showcase their talent was a big deal. And we had this thing in the
Yes.
cafeteria because the cafeteria had stage and a little sound system or whatever, right? And the curtains opened up and we're all on stage and I started playing Tender Love. And then I don't know when Pete just decided to improvise and throw himself in the floor and people weren't we could tell people weren't feeling it, and I forgot who it was and said, "All right, fellas, we going a different direction." B hit that beat.
That
Oh,
was
that was
me.
you. And it was like,
Yes.
yo, it was like what's the thing now? Thank you. Did you not go to work?
Wait, I'll tell you later.
Okay. All right, son just popped in. He was supposed to go to work and now he's not at work, but we'll find out about that later. Anyway, it was like what's the thing? The hip hop so where the celebrities do the whatever. When Joshua dropped that beat, that show. Anyway, he
Yeah.
was like, "Yo, B, give me that beat." And B took off his and
Doodle.
there was a song on the Fat Boy album, the Fat Boys album called
In the
In the
house.
House. And it was nasty. It was just a simple beat. And it had a beat, that beat, and then it just had a simple bass line. It was a piano. Do
Yep.
do
Doodle.
do do
Doodle.
the house.
Doodle.
And,
Yep.
and he started beating, and I forgot who started rapping, and I just jumped in on the keyboard, and everybody's like, "Hey,
Yep.
hey,
Yep.
hey, hey!" And
Yeah.
man, look, killed it. Thought we were going to win. Curtains closed. We walking on stage, we high fiving each other. Yeah, bro, we go out and watch the show. My mom was like, "That was not the song you were supposed to perform."
Yep.
Uh, no big thing. It's just a lot of parents were back in the '80s were kind of iffy on hip hop, and some of those same parents are looking back and going, "Okay, I see what they were saying because they prefer Run DMC and the Fat Boys to
Yeah.
what we got now." You dig what I'm saying?
Yep. Yep.
And then the thing was, mom was like, "Well, you should do your own thing." And I was like, "Mom, but I'm already in the thing with the group." She's like, "But you should showcase your own talents instead of being in the group." I said, "Okay, all right, whatever." So that's when I did, and the curtains opened up, and I never forget. Now I couldn't see out in the crowd at all because of the lights on the stage. But as soon as the curtains opened up, I was like 5 acts later. Somebody said, "You again?" And we thought we were gonna kill it till
Yep.
till Eddie got up there and sang "Careless
Yep.
Whisper."
Yeah. He sung "Careless Whisper," and those white guys came up there, and I give them props. They killed it when they did "Fight for Your Right to Party."
I forgot about that.
Yeah, those
And
white boys killed it.
you know how many things from high school, how many memories from high school that had just kind of because of 34 years of other memories that have been compressed in
Yeah.
here. I forgot
Yeah.
about that. And I think Mr. Langford played the violin. I know Miss Snipes sang a song.
Yeah. Miss Snipes
Uh,
sang a song.
and I remember T and his dance crew and Terry Parker
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
other boy, Orlando Frazier, got up there and they cut up Barbara's Bedroom and As We
Hmm.
Lay and all of that good stuff. But that essentially is where. Oh, were you with us when we went to Hinesville? I asked you this before.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't. Well, Pete and I and his cousin decided he heard about a contest down in Hinesville or whatever, and went down there. Uh, the short version of a long story is we went down to audition. The guy told us we were in. Now, I had asked my mother if I could go audition, and she said that I could only go if my father went. Well, he said I went and gave him a different version of what I asked her. I said, "There's this talent contest. It's down in Hinesville. Can we be in it?" He said, "Yeah." I didn't say nothing about the audition. So me and the boys went down the road, and then we got a flat tire coming back up the road. And for reference's sake, the road coming back from Fort Stewart to connect to I-95 to get back to Savannah is not very well lit. I don't know about then. I don't know about now, but I know back then in '87, '88, it was not. And we had a flat tire on the side of the road, and somehow or another, father's intuition, my pops came and found us. And after he dropped everybody off, gave me the speech in the car, like Bill Cosby. Your mother's gonna kill you when we get home, right? It's like, that whole thing. But we stayed up on each other's backs about music and things of that nature. And my thing was, uh, I was classically trained. I was a classically trained pianist, but I also
Yes.
played for church and I liked popular music. And your thing was you you just laid it all out for everybody. You just had that jazz background, and I mean, you just mentioned I'm man. Only name that you didn't throw out there, only couple names that I'm missing that you didn't throw out there was Chick Corea and
Chick Corea.
Quincy
Yeah.
Jones
Yeah.
that you hung out with. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because if
Yeah.
you knew
But
those guys, I mean, if you knew Miles, you had to know Quincy because Miles and Quincy were boys.
yeah,
Too.
of course, of course. But yeah, so like I said, my Gramps, it's just from him. First of all, he had that reggae background, and he started out as a reggae musician, and then once he came to the States from Jamaica and moved to the Philadelphia area, that's when um, that's when he met all of the bigwigs, so to speak. That's when he met Miles. That's when he met Dizzy, and that's when he met a young Stanley Clark, and George Benson. George Benson was from Pittsburgh, but he would always come down to Philly and play the clubs in Philly when he was a
Mm,
kid. And the same thing with George Duke. When George Duke was before he was the super producer that he turned into be. He was just an up and coming dope ass keyboard player.
yes, sir.
And so just listening to his stories and then watching these cats, not knowing who they were, because I'm just a little shorty. All I know is, I didn't know that I was in the face of legends at the time. All I knew is
Right.
these cats that are with Gramps can play. And I learned how to play just from watching them. I would watch Herbie Hancock. And Herbie Hancock for me was the original Mr. Fingers because his fingers are like this long. He's got some long, long fingers. I remember that.
Well,
Um,
see, here's the difference between him and me. See, Herbie's got like those long Kawhi Leonard ET fingers. See,
yeah.
my name came about because my fingers are very thick, and
Hmm.
and my classmate was like, "Yo, how are you like? You should be playing three keys with each finger with them toe
Yep.
hands." And they called me Mr. Toes. It's for those if you've never
Yeah.
heard the story, they called my partner called me Clayton McDonald, good friend of mine. If you watching Clayton, much love. We were in concert choir together, so I would warm up the choir before rehearsal. And he was like, they would call me Mr. Toes. And then he came back to the next rehearsal. He's like, "Yo, bro, that toes thing don't make no sense. That dumb. You never seen nobody play the piano with their feet. We call you Mr. Fingers." And so I never had a use for that name until I started DJing because
Yeah.
somebody said you need a DJ name, man. You can't just be Anthony. I was like, what's wrong with Anthony? That's my name. I was like DJ Anthony. That sounds yeah. That sounds like that sounds like you're playing that sounds like you're playing easy listening yacht rock at the country club on the third Saturday of the weekend during brunch. It's like he's like, nah, bro, you need something. And I was like, I got a name. Boom, Mr. Fingers. And from there, but then at that point, most everybody that knew me in Virginia knew me for being the karaoke guy. It was only
Yeah.
after they knew me for a while. It's like this, you play piano too? Like Cat Williams,
Yep.
girl, he play piano too. This
Yep.
Negro play piano too. you
Yeah.
know. So
So yeah, but like I said, just watching all of them, that's how I learned how to play. And I just taught myself how to play piano, taught myself how to play drums, taught myself how to play bass, trying to imitate Stanley Clark, and I still can't do the stuff that he does, So it's just watching them and listening and learning it. That's how I got my experience, just playing by ear. Because honestly, I'm what you would call a functional musical illiterate. I cannot read any music. I can't write music, but I can compose it in my head. If I have a tune in my head, um, it's all of my compositions start with a bass line, and I build everything around that bass line and add the melodies, add the chords, and whatever else I want to put in there.
I got a secret for you. Me too. I took mu- I took music for I took piano lessons for 11 years. Never learned how to read a note. I understand the theory.
Hmm.
I can tell you about stuff, and I used to be able to look at a piece of sheet music and tell you what the key signature is and all of that stuff, but I never learned how to read. It was just listening to the music and playing and emulating and
Yeah.
listening to, especially playing in church and listening to the Richard Smallwoods. You talked about George Duke. Uh, there are a lot of people that are known for their skills on the keys in the gospel realm. Honestly, my top two, these are just pianists.
Hmm.
Is Kirk Franklin at number two,
Hmm.
and Richard Smallwood at number one. Because
Nice.
Richard Smallwood was so nasty with it that there is to this day at Howard University, where he graduated, a gospel choir in his name because he started the choir. He started the first gospel choir at Howard. And then as far as organist, oh God, I can't remember that brother's name. All I know is Corey, and then Maddie Mars Clark, and Twinkie Clark. Them three.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
sick with it. Absolutely sick with it. So ironic that you mentioned Herbie Hancock. I was out in the yard earlier, like I mentioned, and the last song that I was listening to before I got everything done, Chameleon came on.
Yes.
Now, those of you that are familiar with Herbie Hancock in any form or fashion, you might know him from Rocket, which was like his huge mainstream hit during was it 83,
Yeah,
83?
83, 83. And he just racked up MTV Music Awards and Grammys because he did something that nobody had heard of at the time. He mixed jazz with hip hop. And this was like one of the first records that you heard that actually had scratching on it.
Uh-huh.
prominent scratching, So and then if you I still remember to this day his performance that he did at the Grammys, where he
Oh
just
man.
shocked the entire world because not only was he doing Rocket, not only did you have Grandmaster DXT on the turntables, but then you had these mannequins coming to life and doing windmills and backspins and moonwalking, and
Yes.
everybody was
Yes.
like, "What the hell did I
Yes.
just see?" And
If you
even
did
Michael Jackson was in the first row with Brooke Shields, and it was one of the guys that he would watch and idolized as far as on their breakdancing skills. Because if you watch the end of that clip, you see Michael pointing at the dude like this, doing like that.
uh-huh. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it, and that's all we talked about in school. Like
yeah,
it went from that year, it went from Mike moonwalking at Motown 25 to Herbie Hancock at the Grammys.
yes,
And Herbie Hancock, at that point, a man way ahead of his time.
way,
So
way ahead of his time.
Chameleon was my introduction to Herbie Hancock because Pops, moms did a lot of gospel. Moms listened to a lot of gospel and Motown sound, and both mom and dad were deep in Motown sound, Philadelphia sound. But Pops, low key, was definitely into some jazz stuff. Like he was like, check out. He was like, you need to listen to Nat King Cole, and listen to this guy, and listen to that guy. Check out this dude. I said, Dad, he can make his face look like he could put a whole chicken in it. Oh, that's Dizzy
Yep,
Gillespie
Dizzy
with the
Gillespie.
Dizzy and Stanley Clark on the bass and Miles Davis. I was like, ugh, he looked like a real angry grandmama. No, son, listen to the music like and Quincy Jones. Like my introduction to Quincy was the "You Got It Bad Girl" album
Okay,
from whence for those not familiar, stay with me, you'll get it in a second. If you know the theme song to Sanford and Son, you know who Quincy Jones is. If you know the soul bossa nova, the theme for Austin Powers, that's Quincy Jones. If you know Thriller and you know Bad, you know Quincy Jones. But my introduction was and when he was doing stuff with Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby did 2 tracks on that, and Bill was big in the jazz. Say what you want to say about Dr. Cosby.
Bill was a dope drummer, a
Yeah,
dope drummer.
yeah. I mean, he had his proclivities. He's those that we realized that, but in that time before we
Yeah.
knew, like I still listen to all of that. All of that stuff is in my playlist. I'm not as deep in it as you are, but when you start throwing names out, I'm like, got you. Check, check, and
Yep.
check. So what have you been up to? We basically burned up the first half of the show, catching up
Yeah.
and talking about our influence. So what are you into these days?
So these days, so music. For me, it's a hobby. It's a release. It's something that I just enjoy doing. I will sit. I will compose. I'll create. Just to keep my sanity, and and just to the old saying. You always have to work on your craft so you don't lose it. So just always working on the craft, whether it's finding a new way to play the bass, like Wayman Tisdale. Wayman Tisdale, rest in peace. For those who are basketball fans, he was um, one of the best college basketball players ever coming out of Oklahoma. But he also had a pretty decent NBA career with the Pacers and the Sacramento Kings. While he was playing with the Kings, he decided he wanted to do a jazz album, and he was a hell of a bass player. The thing with him, because he was left-handed, and there were no left-handed bass guitars available when he was growing up, he learned how to play upside down, and and he just used
Now
that technique.
is that the dude that held the bass like that? Like
Yes, yeah,
is
upside
okay.
down. Yeah, yeah. And so. And then once he retired from the NBA, he just parlayed his craft into making jazz albums, jazz and funk albums, and uh, I think he had diabetes, or no, he had cancer, and he had to have one of his legs amputated, and he actually succumbed to it some years later. But he was just he was a big influence on me as far as my bass playing technique.
Okay.
Learning how to play upside down like him. And Also, another side note, he and the country singer Toby Keith were like best friends. Toby
Oh,
Keith is
did
also
not, did
from
not know that.
Oklahoma. Yeah, so
Learning stuff today.
Yeah, Wayman Tisdale is an Oklahoma legend. Blake Griffin went to Oklahoma and he asked Wayman Tisdale for permission to wear his jersey number while he was there. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, but yeah. Toby Keith actually made a joke saying, "Yeah, according to ASCAP, now I am officially a jazz singer because he did a jazz duet with Wayman Tisdale." But but going back on track, he's one of the people that I learned how to just uh, experiment with different techniques as far as playing goes. And in addition to that, I've always been a writer as far as poetry goes. I started out writing poetry, then I got into hip hop and everything. And, I'm back into the whole poetry thing more on a deeper level, on the spoken word tip. But for me, um, I try to throw myself as far to the left of normal as possible when it comes to my spoken word, when it comes to my poetry, because um, in the poetry circles, you see some people who are just imitating other people. It's like you have somebody that comes out with something original and new, and then you have some other people who they see it and they want to run with it and put that into their repertoire. So, I try to do something um, as far to the left as normal as possible. Just
Let me ask you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you
no,
finish
go
that. What I
go
wanted to
ahead.
ask you a question. You mentioned the spoken word. It led me to this follow up question. Um, did you, by chance, ever have an opportunity to work with Clinton Powell, who was
Yes,
an
yes. So
absolute legendary
listen.
spoken
The
word
the
artist?
late great Clinton Powell. He was the one that actually got me into performing. So
Okay.
I used to always after I'd gotten out of the military, I was stationed in Jacksonville, but I would always come up to Savannah to see family and friends and everything. Um, and I would go to all of these different spoken word venues that they had. And Clinton, um, he would always see me with my notebook and writing and everything. And he introduced himself to me, and he was looking through my notes and he was like, "People need to hear this." I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I'm good. And he said, "No, seriously, people need to hear this." So at the next open mic event that I went to, Clinton was hosting, and he tricked me. He, unbeknownst to me, put my name on the list, and I had no idea, that my name was on the list. And he said, "Coming up to the stage, give it up for Mr. Mark Anthony Austin." And I'm like, "Huh? Come on up. He's lazy. I mean, he's shy. Give him some love. Give him some love. Give him some encouragement. He's a little shy." I'm like, "Dude, I'm gonna knock your little skinny ass out when I'm done."
Oh, Clint, Clint
So
would blow. Clint would blow
yeah,
away the window.
yeah.
No
I, I,
disrespect.
I yeah, I went up there, and I didn't have anything memorized, so I'm looking at my notes and everything, and I just saw the crowd reaction, and I was like, "Wow, this is kind of cool." Even though I was scared out of my mind, but it was cool. Just knowing um, the effect that words can have on people, how they can move, especially if you put them in a certain format and if you say them a specific way. And I'm like, "Man, this is kind of dope." So I just started writing more and memorizing more stuff. And I started collaborating with Clinton more and another brother named Renaissance, Ralph Dillard. He actually went to Windsor also. Um, and
Name rings a bell.
we actually Ren and Clinton formed this collective known as Spitfire, and they invited me to be part of the collective. So it was a collection of some dope ass poets in Savannah, Jacksonville, and the surrounding areas that we would get together. We would vibe off of one another. We'd go to different open mics in various cities, and just do our thing. And it was kind of like a brand new Harlem Renaissance, where you had Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston and all of these other artists that would just be in one apartment and just bouncing ideas off of one another. And that's how we did. It was a bunch of us, male and female, that would just do our thing. We went up to Charleston one evening, and it was this club Level 2 in Charleston. They had open mics every Wednesday. We went up there, all of us, and we ripped it. And one of the guys that was a poet there, he was also one of the heads of the arts and media department in the College of Charleston. And he said, look, we want to have you guys featured at one of these spots and everything. We'll pay for your travel. We'll, you guys can split up X amount of dollars and everything, just to get your name out there, because I like what you're doing. And so we went up to a couple of venues sponsored by the College of Charleston as the featured performers, the Spitfire Poetry Group. So it was cool. Clinton, may the brother rest in peace. He was an integral part of me actually becoming a spoken word artist, and getting as heavy into it as I am.
Yeah, he used to come to St. John and give us some of his spoken word, especially during Black History Month. And then he would come out like twice a year, like Black History Month, and round about the time that we were recognizing graduating students, and the scholarship committee was issuing the scholarships to students going off to school. So he would come through twice a year, and that was something that. And now at that time, I didn't know Clinton like that, other than from him coming to St. John because he went to beach. But then I
Hmm.
would see him around Savannah State, and they were like, "That guy right there, that guy's deep, that guy's dope." And I'm like,
Yep.
"Y'all late, y'all are late. I'm already on that tip." And I actually was very surprised to find it was a shocker. I did not know he was sick, but it was a shocker to find out that he had passed away. But he was one of my first life experiences with spoken word is art, like with because the Langston Hughes and of the same ilk were all gone by the time I was born, so I had no
Right,
frame of
right.
reference. But so he was my first experience with spoken word. Good dude
Nice.
too. Good fella,
Yeah, yeah,
brother.
real good dude. He would honestly give you the shirt off of his back if you needed it. He was a really really good dude, and I owe a lot to him, as well as Renaissance, for getting me into spoken word the way I am. As a matter of fact, Renaissance was the one who got my first actual paying gig for me. He put my name out there, got me interviews with what was that called? It's some Savannah magazine that focuses on arts, but he got me a cover story on there with a couple of Savannah journalists. They did a little bio on me and just promoted my little one man show, and that was my first paying gig. So those two really really did a lot for me, as far as seeing what they saw in my work, and just wanting me to win.
Okay, man. Look, so much that we have, uh, so many years that had so many decades that have passed, and then you and I just randomly catching up because you know how, like I said, and I meant to touch on this when I was talking about how we knew each other and how we caught up, is that I hadn't heard from or talked to or reached out to you because, like I said, I didn't have a way to reach you either. And then social media haven't been around now for, or as we know it, with MySpace being the first really big one. I mean,
Hmm.
you had AOL IM, Yahoo IM, Black Planet, but everybody had a screen name, so there was nowhere to really tell who was who unless you
Yep.
decided to link up off site. But I get this friend request. And my apologies for letting it sit because I'm like, I know that brother from somewhere. So then I got to looking. I said, well, let me take a look. And I looked and I looked and I looked. I said, oh snap, that's my man's in there. So that's and the dog. We haven't even been. It hadn't even been what, a year since we
Hasn't even
reconnected.
been a year. Yeah, hasn't even been a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I'm sorry. Wife just texted me because I wanted to know what was going on with Bub and work because he was supposed to be going to work and then he came back in the door and I just wanted to make sure he was still employed. But yeah, so I mean, and I'm glad we have, man. I'm glad we have. So we've had a chance to chop it up. We've had a chance to chop it up, catch up with each other, see what's been going on, and I don't know. You sitting there like you sat at the board like you was gonna give us a little something today. What's good with that?
Nah.
That's just for decoration's sake.
Well, no. So this is kind of like the fortress of solitude here. You know,
I got you.
the man cave slash media room. And so in my own little corner, I have the Yamaha boards, and hold on, and over here I've got the Juno, the Roland Juno. So
Okay, that is. I've got the same one. Is that the DS, the 88
yep.
key DS? I've got
No,
the same board.
it's the 61 key DS.
Okay, I got the 88 key because I wanted the I was looking for a Triton. I absolutely fell in love with the Triton when it came out. The Triton was the sequel to the M1, if I remember
Mm-hmm.
correctly.
Mm-hmm. The Korg
And
M1. Yep.
it was I was like they were like, yo, they put a sequencer in a keyboard, like all 8 tracks and everything with the okay, I'm on board. I'm all in. And then
Well,
you
go ahead. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
mean, the M1 had it also, but the way that they laid it out on the Triton was a whole different ball game. Was a whole. I mean, it just it simplified it because the
Yeah.
M1 was kind of the first foray, if you follow what I'm getting at,
Well,
into
my first foray into synthesizers with sequencers was actually Ensoniq. Ensoniq was a beast, and this was post M1, pre Triton, and
okay.
uh, Pete Williams was the one who actually turned me on to the Ensoniq. He's like, dude, there's this new keyboard out. I mean, blah blah blah. You're talking about Yamahas and DX7s and all of that. You need to check out this Ensoniq. And I checked it out, and I was like,
Oh,
what?
The
Yeah,
DX7,
yeah,
nasty. Because that
yep.
well, see, you know what though? That just goes to show you how we become conditioned by branding. Because if you looked on Soul Train, if you looked on Arsenio Hall, if you looked on American Bandstand, if you looked in
Everything.
videos, everybody had
Everybody had a DX7. Yes,
everybody had a
yes,
DX7, and then
yep.
after that, everybody had a Triton. Now,
Hmm.
I
And
didn't
after
know
that,
any,
everybody had a motif. So
right
yeah.
now I didn't know anything about the M1 um, from television. All I knew is I lived in back home in Savannah, y'all. And Mark can attest to this. He probably spent just as much time in these two stores as I did. We had two major
Ben
music dealers,
Portman's.
Ben Portman's, and the other one was what was it? There was another
Uh,
guy. There was another guy that had a shop that was right around the corner next to the La Quinta Inn. It
hmm
was next to the Quinta Inn. It was between the La Quinta Inn and the whatever was on the corner of Gosh, that mechanic that was on the corner of Mall Boulevard and Abercorn on
hmm
in the northbound lane.
hmm
But, but Ben Portman's had the Music Superstore down on Mall Boulevard, and then they
hmm
had the micro shop in the back of the mall.
Yep.
I lived in there. I had to go in there and touch every single piece of keyboard equipment.
Same here.
And
Same here.
my thing back then was I had just learned the little keyboard intro to Let's Chill, so I would go in there and play it. You know, the part where Aaron's talking over to
Yeah.
God, we
Yeah.
better get and so I was like, yo, what keyboard is this? And the guy was like, yo, that's the Korg M1. That's the new keyboard from Korg. And I was like, so tell me about it. So of course he's like, so what do you do? I was like, I play for a church or whatever. His eyes lit up because he just knew I was walking out the door. and it has like that homeboy sequencing. It's like check out the beauty, to sound like touch sensitivity on the keys, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh word, okay. So I went home and said, Ma, so this keyboard, I want your keyboard. It's like, what keyboard is it, babe? This is Korg M1, and it does blah blah blah, and it does so and so and so. And so how much is it? But then it has, you gotta hear it does this and this and that. How much is it?
Yeah.
But Mom, wait a minute, hold on, and then you can put all the tracks together. And it's all on one key, and you don't need to have like a studio to do nothing, and you just do all your songs. So how much is it? And I was like, $2,000. What was it, like 2 grand or something like that?
Yep. Yep.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. And this is back in the late '80s, early '90s when,
Early 90s. Yep.
yeah, when because now there ain't nothing to go in there and drop a couple of grand for a full 88 key keyboard.
Yep.
Shoot, you might
Yep.
pay 4 or 5 grand, but 2 grand back then, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
so she's like, boy, all right, I'm gonna see what I can do. We'll see. And every Christmas, I kept thinking I was going to get that keyboard, and I never got it. I wound up buying, just breaking down and buying that CTK. So what I did was, the church I was playing at, I talked the pastor into buying, into acquiring. It wasn't a Korg, but it was a Korg, but it was something else.
Hmm.
So that was how I had my access to this keyboard, and I wrote a whole gospel album on that keyboard. But
Oh,
anyway,
nice.
yeah, but yeah, they played it on SOK and 8CJ. But you know how sometimes you go back and you listen to your earlier stuff and you go, ooh,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, that was
Yep.
definitely it. Yeah, remember Eddie Murphy and Arsenio? Eddie Murphy was on the Arsenio Hall show, and Eddie was talking about the new album he was working on. And Arsenio was like, "Yeah, it's like the one thing being best friends with a musician. Every time you get in the car, like I got a tape, we just put it in there. You be like, yeah, that it was bad. It was bad. But yeah, so dad, we go way 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 back, and I'm glad that we have reconnected, and I'm glad we've had the opportunity to chop it up, and like culminating in this here today, um, and you being here and being a part of the show. And so I kind of want to. I know you said that you music is kind of your stress relief, but
Ah,
oh,
I'm here. I'm here. Hold on.
flag on the play, code 22, code 22, pin down. I am a boy, Damon.
All right.
So tell people what your musical style is. Something like, I know Stanley Clark is one of your inspirations, and well, actually,
Yeah.
before we go into your musical style, um, Stanley Clark notwithstanding, right now off the dome, baddest bass player in the game.
Baddest bass player in the game. Ooh, it would be a toss up. Marcus Miller and Victor Wooten.
Okay, all right, all right. You like to do a lot of sax. You like to do a lot of
Yes.
sax for yourself. Baddest sax
Gerald
player.
Albright. Gerald
Ah,
Albright.
my esteemed fraternity brother. Okay, good choice. I like that. Let's see. Keys.
Whew. Wow. I mean, Herbie Hancock is would be a no brainer, and that's a simple, easy out. I'm going to throw a curveball. Teddy Riley.
Oh, Teddy is nasty, isn't he?
Teddy is beyond nasty.
A lot of people. A lot of people do not give Teddy his propers because
Yeah.
he produced, like, his tracks are produced, and when you do a produced track, you can basically play a 16 bar, 32 bar bass line and 16 bars worth of keys and throw some strings on top of it and a couple of incidentals over that and just chop them and put them together and then do the same thing with your hook
Yeah.
and
I
then
I
make a
I have
bridge.
seen I've seen the brother in action, and
But Teddy can
dude
Teddy,
is
Teddy can wail.
yes, yes.
Teddy is nasty. Teddy can definitely wail. Okay, let's move on.
Guitar,
Skins, drums.
Skins. Ah, even though I haven't heard much from him lately, I would say Omar Hakim.
Tony Royster. That's my pick.
Okay.
Tony Royster Jr. Now, in real life, that I have actually gigged with.
No, 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 no. I take that back. I take that back. Sugarfoot, John Moffat.
Okay, all right. in real life, somebody that I have worked with is a brother by the name of Darrell Wooden. I gigged with a band in Virginia for a little bit before we moved out here.
Hmm.
Young brother too. He's probably I don't even think he's 30 yet, and just absolutely ridiculous. Like I mean, the guys that you can see play
Hmm.
quad and could like quad crushes in the
Hmm.
span of an eighth note and like everywhere.
Yep.
Nasty with it. Like we used to do. We used to close our set with "Show Me What You Got" by Jay Z,
Hmm.
and then just to get the crowd hyped up for the end of the show, and then we would just say, "All right, we will get a drummer song," and he would just go off. Oh, and that's the nastiest drum I ever played with in real life. Now, I actually want to change my answer. Tony Royster's nasty. John P. Key has a son. John P. Key. There are a lot of different where gospel is because that's the basis for a
Hmm.
lot of where I built my musical experience. Where gospel music is concerned, there are groups all over the place that are just ridiculous. I mentioned Richard Smallwood. Richard Smallwood is probably probably the preeminent in terms of vocal arrangements and just his piano skills. Kirk is the king of where when the gospel music was trying to make that move to draw in younger people, Kirk is the king of that. He was the first person to really integrate R&B and hip hop into whatever
Into gospel. Yeah.
into gospel. Now, in terms, let's see, in terms of being able to direct the choir, that would be Ricky Dillard and the late Orlando Draper. But in terms of a band, who got the baddest backing gospel band? Period. John P. Key. John P. Key does not play, and his son had to step in and cover for the regular drummer when the regular drummer was sick, and regular drummer never got the job back. His son is stupid with it. So that's who I'm going with. I can't remember his
Yeah.
name, but that's what I'm going with.
And honorable mention, Jelly Bean Johnson.
Oh man, I thought Jelly Bean was just percussionist.
No, 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 that's Jerome. I'm
Okay,
talking about Jelly Bean. Okay, so Jelly Bean Johnson, for those who are not familiar, is the drummer for the Time. All right, and those familiar with the Time know that their first two albums were produced and played and composed and performed almost entirely by Prince. Morris played drums on a few of their tracks. So in concert, Prince, the iron fisted dictator that he was, would always instruct them, you have to sound better than the album. And I want everything perfect, note for note, note for note. So if you listen to the drum line, the drum track for 7779311.
oh, I was just getting
All
ready to
right.
go there. Hi hat
Yeah.
is nasty.
So yeah. So here's the thing though. That hi-hat was from a Lindrum. It was a pre-programmed hi-hat from a Lindrum that Prince had programmed. Prince had pulled up. But if you see the Time in concert playing 7779311, Jelly Bean has that whole drum program down pat, right down to the hi-hats. I
Live
mean,
in living color.
live. Yes.
Well,
I mean,
that's a nasty sounding Lindrum then because I
yeah.
thought that was somebody actually playing.
No, that was something that Prince pulled up. It was a pre-programmed hi-hat from the Lindrum, and Prince added the bass and the snare. And if you listen really closely, the snare is slightly off. It's slightly off rhythm, and he did that deliberately. And like I said, Jelly Bean reproduces that perfectly. And also the drum tracks, the drumming that Morris did on Wild and Loose and a couple of the other songs that the Time did, because Morris is a hell of a drummer. A lot of people don't know that. Um, Jelly Bean pretty much put Morris to shame.
Okay.
So yeah, Jelly Bean Johnson will be an honorable mention for me.
And that's not to take away because I've seen some, from Buddy Rich to Neil Peart to
Hmm.
Travis Barker
Yeah,
to
Travis Barker. Who what's the cat's name from Def Leppard, the one that lost his foot?
Rick
No,
Allen.
the one that lost his arm. Yeah,
I
Rick
think his
Allen.
name is Rick Allen.
Yeah,
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 I mean, just for him to be able to come back and play with one arm,
yep, yep.
um, oh God, I mean, and there have been tons of other drummers. Oh, can't think of the name of the drummer from Living Color. He's nasty too.
Yes, yeah. He's
I saw
nasty.
them
Yeah,
live. I saw them live 3 summers ago, and he had a cast on his arm. He'd broken one of the bones in his forearm. Played a full set and just wore it out. Wore it out. I'm like, dang, he playing like that with a cast on his arm. I hate to see
yep,
him 100%.
yep.
He's got to be nasty. Did you,
If you get a chance to check out John Moffat, Sugarfoot, I
mhm.
mean, people call him the human metronome because you can keep time off of his drumming. But so he was Michael Jackson's drummer for all of his tours.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Yeah.
I saw a video with him, and he was playing along with Smooth Criminal.
Yep. Yep.
That guy. Yeah. Okay. I know exactly
Yeah.
who he is.
He
All right.
is that dude.
Let's see. So we touched on percussionists. So who you got for percussion?
Percussion. Ooh. Ooh. Sheila E.
I My man. I was gonna say if it ain't Sheila or Pete, then it ain't worth throwing out
Yep.
there. A lot of
Any
people
one of the Escovedos, but definitely Sheila E.
people do not give. A lot of people did not realize uh, because the song came out and we were all jamming the Glamorous Life and Love Bizarre
Hmm.
and and all of that, and then they would go see a concert. They're just like, "Yo, like yeah,
Yep.
Sheila is ridiculous because but she drums also, but percussion is
Yep.
like her main
Yep.
thing."
And this is another, I guess, kind of full circle thing. How I got introduced to Sheila E. Not through Prince and Glamorous Life, but she used to drum and play percussion congas for George Duke.
Oh wow, so she's been in the game for a minute. Well,
She's been in the game, yeah, for a
it is
good minute.
it is actually interesting when you take the time to research some of the acts that we grew up watching, and we just think. I think that's where I think, and this is not to knock today's artists, mind you. There's still some folks that put in the work and then get their foot in the door and get the opportunity to do some things. But the internet has provided a lot of artists now with what I call microwave success.
Hmm.
In that all it takes is that one video. You can put out 10 videos, one of them pops, and all of a sudden you're off and running. But to find out how long these people worked and gigged together, Sheila playing for George Duke and Luther. It was only after Luther had blown up and been out in the public eye for about 4 or 5 years. It's like, oh, he used to sing backup for Aretha and actually
Yep.
wrote a couple of songs for Aretha.
Yep. Jump
Um,
to
you
it,
know,
get it
it's
right.
only yeah, there's only a small handful of people that like Natalie. Her pops is Nat King Cole, so there was no way he
Hmm.
wasn't gonna hold the door open for her. But like the Jackson Five, like the only story that I prominently know of someone that worked to get where they were going is the Jackson Five, the story of the Jackson Five, because
Yeah.
Joe took and New Edition, because
Yeah.
I knew about New Edition and how they were hitting the talent shows all over Boston and just killing it. But like you know, to see how much time and work they put in, even to jump genres outside of music. Um, I did not know Bernie Mac had a late night HBO talk show or variety show.
Yeah. I didn't either. So that's news to me also.
It was called Midnight Mac, and there was a comedian that he had on the second show, Chris Thomas, I think it was, and he
Yeah.
talked about how he not Chris Thomas. It was another dude, and he talked about how he and Bernie Mac used to gig. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't him and Bernie Mac. It was another guy, but he talked about how he used to do gigs back in the '70s in Cleveland with Steve Harvey, and I was like, Steve been gigging that long? Like,
Yep.
because by the time the Steve Harvey we knew was Def Comedy Jam Steve in the
Hmm.
'90s, and Showtime at the Apollo,
Yep.
then eventually Kings of Comedy Steve. Like I didn't know he gigged that long, and Bernie talked about how he was gigging back in the '70s. I'm like, these people put in work. It took work to get there. So much admiration. Let's see. Okay, what did we not touch on? We did
Guitar,
we did bass, we did drums, we did keys, percussion. All right,
guitar.
give me the guitar.
I mean, again, it would be a cop out to say Prince. I'm going to go totally to the left because, as far as technical skills and how he can make his guitar talk and sound so damn pretty, Paul Jackson Jr.
Okay. Uh, huh.
Best rhythm guitarist ever, though, is Nile Rodgers.
Oh, all day, all day. A lot of people don't give now his pro. Well, a lot of people don't know
Don't
Nile.
know. Nile
Don't know
Rodgers, hands down, the best rhythm guitarist ever.
Chic,
Yep.
Sister Sledge,
Diana
the
Ross.
entire score for
Yep.
Coming to America.
Yep. Diana
Um,
Ross, David Bowie.
everybody,
Yep.
just about everybody. If you can name anybody from the '70s coming forward, he's been right there
Yep.
alongside
Even
of.
even Pharrell and Daft Punk.
And oh man, and that's saying something because those cats have kind of got their. I mean, they're talented
Yep.
of their own right. Um, who, you know what? I'm gonna go back a ways, and that's not to take anything away from Paul Davis, but I'm gonna go back.
Jackson.
Um, huh?
Jackson.
Paul Jackson. I'm sorry, my bad. Did I say Paul right?
You said Paul. Yeah, you said Paul right.
My bad. My bad. I'm gonna go a little further back than Paul Jackson. That I ever got an opportunity to see play. No, I never got to see them play live. I got to see them play live on something they did live. I forget what it was. Uh, Alex Van Halen.
Ah, okay.
Because if you think back to it, a lot of the techniques being played now,
Yep.
whether or not people knew how to do them, that public introduction with his solo on "Beat It."
On Beat It. Yes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there were guitarists that knew how to do it, but you didn't hear it. You never heard it
Hmm.
like that before, and now everybody's doing it. Like
Yep.
the lead guitarist from Scorpions kind of tried to do a little bit with his introduction, but it wasn't as clean. Like Alex nailed it, and now everybody's doing it. So now you got to take it next
Yep.
level. Alex Van Halen's nasty. Make his guitar talk.
Also,
Remember
also,
when they came? Remember when they came to Savannah and they came to Savannah and Civic Center was sold out, and the radio DJs were talking about it next day on want to say I-95, and they were saying that he would literally make his guitar talk. And David Lee Roth was like, "Hey Alex, why don't you make your guitar say Savannah kicks ass because the girls are so fine?" And, and they talked about like they taught everybody. That was a part of the show that everybody talked about, like how dope he was
yep.
on the guitar.
Yep.
Let's not take
Um,
away from anybody
oh yeah.
else.
Oh yeah. 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 Also, a jazz guitarist who introduced a technique that you saw a lot of the metal guitarists use. Stanley Jordan. He innovated the whole neck tapping technique where he's playing instead of down here, he's playing up here.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, I love that. That I
Yeah.
think that's one of the nastiest things ever.
Yeah. He innovated that.
All right. So now we going now we going big guns. Producers, whether as a solo
Ooh.
or a team.
Okay. Wow.
Now I'm gonna throw out my couple just
Okay.
because this is the thing. I had to explain this to the missus um, with the now infamous verses that took place last year
Hmm.
between the aforementioned Teddy Riley and Mr.
And
Kenneth Edwards.
Babyface. Yes. Kenneth
And I
Edwards.
had to explain to her. I said, "Honey," I said, "just for record, just to give you an idea why this is so huge." I said, There was a point in time from say about '88 to almost up to 2000 where the hottest R&B hits you heard on the radio was one of two people primarily. It was either Teddy or it was Babyface all
Or
day, and
or
you can tell offhand just by listening to the music because Babyface is real key, like his you could tell just his keyboard
hmm
style,
hmm
and then Teddy because it's more of a beat and bass driven type deal. Now that's not to take away from them two suit wearing mofos from
Jam and Lewis. Jam
Minneapolis,
and
Jam
Lewis.
and
Yeah.
Lewis, because Jam and Lewis, I mean, you because they were on it from before when Teddy
Yep.
and Kenny got in it
hmm
because they did stuff for Prince. They did Sherelle, Alexander O'Neal. They were
Human League.
the Human League. Oh,
SOS Band.
SOS Band, who is from Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. New
They
Edition.
New Edition. They were the ones that gave New Edition their whole new
Yep.
sound.
Yep.
Um, I mean, they were the ones who were like, "Yo, all right, Bobby's left the group. We need y'all to sound more grown up. No more bubblegum pop. We bringing
Yep.
in this cat from DC. Let's see what y'all got." And I mean, the number of people that, uh, oh Lord, who else did they write for?
Oh
I can't
wow.
think. I mean, they did so
George
much for
Michael.
George Michael. Wait a minute, hold on. They made they brought Herb Alpert
Yep.
out of they made him because before
He was
that
a
the
la-
general
he was a label exec for A&M Records. He was the CEO of A&M Records.
right, but I mean he was
Yep.
a jazz musician, but
Semi-retired.
it was only the jazz people that knew him
hmm
until Rise came out.
hmm
Now, for those of you that don't know what Rise is that are watching this right now, if you know if you remember the sample from Biggie's Hypnotize, that is the beginning to Herb Alpert's Rise. So I think it was like 78, 77. Whenever Hurricane David hit the East Coast, because I remember that specifically because we spent 28 hours holed up in the bathroom waiting for the hurricane to pass, listening to the radio, and it was the number one song in America. And since the radio stations were short staffed, like it didn't matter what station you turned to, you heard it every 3 seconds. So they put out an album for him. They said, "Hey Janet, come sing some vocals on this
hmm
album, and we go do some tracks for my man." And he put out a whole nother album that went platinum, because Diamonds and then Making Love in the
Making
Rain.
Love in the Rain. Yep.
Oh man, dog, you want to talk about a classic panty dropper right there? I'm not even talking about and I'm not even talking about the original itself is bad. But then when they put the remix on it, man, look. And the folks want to act like I would call the radio station looking for it. And they were like, no, we don't have no Herb Alpert here. I'd be like, how about Janet Jackson? Oh, why you didn't say so? That's Herb Alpert? Yes. But
And you
it was E93. What could you
yeah. And you can't forget about the one of their ultimate panty dropper songs that they did pre Janet Jackson, Tender Love.
Oh, that's the one I was trying to remember.
Tender Love, Force MDs.
You know what? They have made a ridiculous living.
And
Like,
let's not forget Boys to Men.
wait, hold on. Epiphany here. Jam and Lewis have made a tremendous living as producers and have a string of hits, R&B number one songs, and they all in the same key.
Yep.
Tender Love, Can You Stand the Rain, Come Back to Me. Uh, there's like five or six of them that are all in the same
Yeah.
key. Like you can just do a medley and go one from one to another without
But
even changing keys.
but if you think about it, LA and Face have done the same thing. Because think about it. Dial My Heart, right? The Way
Oh,
You Love Me.
I forgot they did the
Yeah.
track for the boy.
The Way You Love Me. Roses Are Red. And
The Mac Band. Come on now.
yeah, and Every Little Step. All four of those songs in the exact same key. You could play one and confuse it for the other.
True, true. And well, yeah, well, I mean, let's be real though. That happens to almost all musicians, and that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest reasons why I have not put anything out as of late is that some of the songs I'm working on now sound a lot like some of the stuff that I put out previously, and
Hmm.
I'm trying to uh, avoid that trap. And a lot of my songs are love songs, and I'm trying to come up with some other stuff. That's why I did my little dabble. You see, I had to do my little throwback to hip hop with the heist, right? I had to go back with that for a
Yeah,
minute, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, those are the three baddest. I, I can't really. I mean, and not of course we can't not also honorable mention nerd nerd.
Yeah,
Uh,
Pharrell.
uh, we can't not throw Quincy in there. I mean,
Yeah,
he produced the still number one best selling album on the face of the planet. Still after
yep.
39 years, still the number one best selling album on the face of the planet. Uh, wow. Is that it? Is that everything? We touched all the musicians, I guess, huh?
Hmm.
Or at
Yeah,
least the
producers.
main.
Yeah.
Uh, man, that's something I'm gonna have to start doing. I think that's a new segment. Best of. Give me your best. I had to come up with a name for it. I had to come up with a name for it. Every guest that comes on that works in music, I'll be like, all right, and then I'll have to tailor it to actors, comedians, because I've had some comedians on here, a couple of comedians on here. So where do you? So we talked about the poetry and the
Hmm.
spoken word. We talked about the music, and I know you don't really have anything out for release. You just, like commercial release, you basically, you put some stuff out here and there. Do you ever see yourself um maybe not necessarily going mainstream, but at least going the commercial route of putting things out so that they're available for sale so that folks can pick them up or
So I have considered, I've been getting a lot of people saying, hey, just do this, just do this, and it is what it is. I do recall you mentioning Distro Kid.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm considering, I'm considering, but but for the time being, just if you're on Facebook, check just look under my alter ego Dark Poet on Facebook or on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Mr. Dark Poet.
Okay. That's
It's
where
got
they can reach
yeah.
the Dark
um
Poet at YouTube and Dark
yeah.
Poet on Facebook.
Also, on Reverb Nation, reverbnation.com. I am there under Dark Poet. If you want to do like a direct URL link, reverbnation.com/dark poet 2, the number 2. And my page will pop up there, and it's got like some pictures, brief bio, and a bunch of different songs that I've recorded over the years.
Okay. All right. Well, and then of course you know the inevitable. We've known each other for a very long time,
Hmm.
and even though we've worked together in a group where we were doing some other people stuff, we have yet to collab on an original piece. So I
Oh, my dude, that is already in the works. You know, and honestly, you hear a lot of people saying, okay, yeah, let's do this in the future, and it's just idle chatter. No, real talk. I mean, we've got history, and heck, even back then when we were in high school, we were talking about collaborating. Let's do a little joint. We can call ourselves Keyboards, etc., or whatever. Uh,
oh damn, that was the name of the place.
Yep,
That was the
keyboards,
name of the
etc.
place.
Yep, keyboards, etc. That was the name of the place. Yep, yep,
Keyboards, etc. That was where
yep.
because Mom Duke's got a full size. Again, I wanted the sequencer, the invoice sequencer, and she went and bought. It's still sitting in her closet collecting dust. It's an 88 key. It's twice as heavy as this Juno. It comes with a full size bass and a pedal. Then she bought a MIDI sequencer separate, along with a Roland, I want to say TR-80 drum machine, and
Oh,
all of that's
okay.
just sitting in the closet
TR
collecting dust.
808. That's an 808, bruh.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't
Oh,
no
oh, you
808.
you didn't have an 808?
No, it was no, it was TR-80. It didn't go
Oh,
boom.
okay.
It
Oh.
went boom. Yeah. Yeah, that's about as good as it got. We didn't have none of that deep sub bass. I wish I did. So I used to have to try and substitute. I tried experimenting with the low tom to try and see
Hmm.
if I could put a sustain on it because it kind of had a little bit of that, but even that didn't work. So whatever. But yeah, we talked about this for a long time. We definitely
Yeah.
need to do this, even if and the technology is available now. When we were 18, there was only one place that I knew. There were two places I knew of where you could go and record music. One of them was the studio wherever Darnell and Gino, when we went and
Hmm.
recorded, one for the treble, two for the bass.
Hmm.
It was back behind WJCL, back there. And then the studios where you could go, the one that was in the Oglethorpe Mall, where you could go and record a karaoke version of yourself singing a popular song for like
Right.
$30. They actually had a full service studio in the back that you could rent out. I just didn't have the monies to accommodate that. But now that the technology has caught up, I mean, I
Oh yeah.
all of this, all this whole corner right here is all studio, and you got your man cave. There's no reason. My son and I have collaborated on two songs and never been in the same room same time. He's in Atlanta and I'm here.
Nice.
So
Nice.
we
Yeah.
need to make that happen.
Oh,
Yes,
without a
indeed.
doubt, without a doubt. Like I said, that's not just idle chatter. I mean that. I mean, we've got too much history and so many ideas that probably will mesh up to like, damn, how did you know what I was thinking? That type of thing. I think it would be a monster collab, honestly. I do.
As a matter of fact, while you joking, I got a joint right now that I've been working on for a minute just because I mean I've spent the last catching up on 2 years now in school, plus the business venture, the side venture I got going. Um, it is. Are you ready for this?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's in 7/8.
Ah, okay.
And I don't know where I'm gonna go with it. I got a base for it. I
Hmm.
got a base for it, and I need to go. I need to go somewhere with it. But I'm actually when we get off here, I'm sending it to you. You need to send me your email address. I'm gonna send it to you. Let you listen to it.
Yeah.
Oh man, you got hey brother, you got anything else for the good of the crowd that you want to share? We see this is the beautiful thing about this show, ladies and gentlemen. I originally planned this show, not this episode, but when I started this show, I said we're gonna do a solid hour every week or every other week or however often we get guests. I'm going to bring them on. I'm going to talk about some things, keep everything, nice and neat, wrap it up in a little bow in an hour. Now, the beautiful thing about this show is I have learned that once I get a guest going, sometimes it's hard to wrap it all up in an hour. My last guest, just for frame of reference, bro, 3 hours.
Wow.
3 hours. All I had to do was feed him a question and let him go. I didn't have to jump in, interject, or anything. He gave me all the background. I didn't have to ask any auxiliary questions. 3 hours. I am still trying to edit that into 30-minute 30-minute segments to put out for the public to consume. Because last time anybody went and sat down for 3 hours for something was it Malcolm X was like, no, Malcolm X wasn't even 3 hours. Lord of the Rings or whatever it was. I think Lord of the Rings was like 3 hours. Each of those was
Yeah.
3 hours and some
Yeah.
change.
And the Titanic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that didn't make no sense. I agree with Steve Harvey. We know what's gonna happen. Bring on the water.
Yep.
Band was playing as the ship go down. Anyway, let me not get off the sidetrack. But it's a beautiful thing, folks. When you get somebody on here and you get the vibing and talking and you get the feeling going, sometimes you just can't cut it off right at an hour. Um, and I may be able to edit this down to an hour, but chances are pretty good this will go just as is. I'll slap a little something on it, maybe clean up, some things where I sneezed or coughed or banged up against the microphone or whatever. But this whole thing is going to go up as is, uncut. So, yeah, we thank you all for tuning in to this week's edition of Indian
Yeah.
Unsigned. My brother, I'm gonna
My
call you.
brother.
Oh, well, I don't
Yeah.
have to call you. We'll just stop the live. We'll talk
Yep.
for a little bit after we get off. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. We don't know when we'll be back. I do have actually three more guests that we're trying to line up. We're just trying to coordinate some things. So there will be some more episodes. Like I said, it probably won't be every week anymore, but we'll be back. So until the next time, be good to yourselves and each other. On behalf of my homie Mark, aka Dark Poet, and myself, Mr. Fingers, the Mad Karaoke DJ, Indian Unsigned, and we are out. Holla.
Take care.